Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Eddie Marcus, spokesman and advocate of basic human rights for all people. I take this moment to make this presentation in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King, 2014. You know, here in St. Paul, Minnesota, we have this where every celebration of Dr. King's Day, we would, in the past, would gather at the cathedral and march to the state capitol, and we'd make speeches in honor of Dr. King. And I remember one day we were marching, and it was in the 90s, and it was so cold. It was so cold. I remember vividly saying to myself, Dr. King, I love you and I love everything that you stand for. But if another day comes and it is as cold as it is today, I will not be marching. No disrespect, but I'm going to respect this cold. Well, a few times since then it has been that cold. But what I mostly find that I got a little disgusted with the King Day celebration. I remember once I got so frustrated I went to the organization that is responsible for celebrating Dr. King's Day. I think at the time it was the Council on Black Minnesotans. And I was mentioning and articulating my disgust. And the disgust is that the same that it is today, and it is why I am here doing it this way. Because to me, Dr. King and his whole life was not about getting together, having speeches about Dr. King. If we want to teach Dr. King in school or some other setting, then that's fine. But on a day like today, we don't want to give speeches about Dr. King. On a day like today, we don't want to have luncheons and breakfasts on honor Dr. King, even though that is what we do. But this, in my experience, is not what Dr. King would want from us, or anyone would want from us who gave their lives for a particular cause. A cause of justice, a cause of freedom, a cause of not only our civil rights, but our human rights. A one who put their lives in the crosshairs to substantiate, in fact, in reality, this is where they were at. And this is the path that we all gathered on while they were alive. And as soon as the enemy decided to take the head off, then we fell by the side. And the enemy empowers us by giving us a day. Empowers us by saying this is in honor of this great man. Give him a statue in Washington to honor the man. And we accept that. And the man turns in his grave because the work is undone. And what he gave his life for is the same that he gave his life for what he believed in. I must say, Dr. King is the man in my lifetime that taught me what it meant to say that you were a child of God. All my life I grew up going to church hearing people talking about how wonderful Jesus. And Jesus is absolutely magnificent in my childish mind. But in my adult mind, in my middle-aged and over-the-hill mind, Jesus is the greatest thing that I ever heard of. And if I had to be like anybody, I would be and want to be just like Jesus. But since I'm me, I got to be like me. But one thing Jesus showed us, and that is the way. All of the things that the world has to offer us, they exist because God, our Father, made it possible for them to exist. Made them possible to exist for the benefit of humankind. But in order for humankind to experience this greatness of our Father, there is a method. If we think about our bodies, look how wonderful our bodies are held together. Do you think that our Father would have a social system that would be any less together than our bodies are? No way. And so what we have in honoring Dr. King is a man who saw that he was one with the Father's will. He was one who looked at Jesus and saw that Jesus says that in order to be free, you must not be bound by the fear of death. In fact, you must embrace death, because death is the beginning. And so we look at life through the eyes of Dr. King, and we would see justice undone. And what we would be doing in honor is committing ourselves that we would settle for nothing less than justice for all of us. And we would put our lives on the line just as Dr. King did, because now we have learned and we honor Dr. King. And we don't play games by assembling ourselves and making speeches that have no value. I say to everybody, in the wake of my voice, Dr. King is calling everybody to walk down a path for justice until it rolls down like a mighty rushing stream, someone said. And then for those of you who are Christians, for those of you who love God, who love Jesus, Jesus that's planted in your soul, I want you to know that Jesus has said that yes, before you accept peace in hell, and the only way you can do it is to be a child of hell. Because a child of God could not settle for suffering and pain for so many people. The child of God could not settle for the genocide of so many people. A child of God could not settle for bombings and starvation and all of these things in the name in pursuit of power. Child of God couldn't settle for that. And so there would be changes made. Their lives would be dedicated, committed to the death for changes. And changes would be made, because truth like that can't be defeated. When they said Jesus was coming back, yes, he's coming back, but in a spiritual form, only to enter into those who are willing to see that same Jesus that they read about, that they saw go to the cross, willing to go to the cross again through them. Otherwise, you're not imbued with the Spirit of Jesus Christ. No, my friends, that is what Dr. King has said. If you believe in Dr. King, then allow Dr. King to live in you. Don't honor Dr. King with statues. Don't honor Dr. King with breakfasts. Don't honor Dr. King with luncheons and speeches, pat on the backs. Honor Dr. King by allowing that pursuit, that burning, that yearning for justice, for your civil rights and your human rights to become apparent today, committed as he is. That's how you honor Dr. King. You honor Jesus the same way. Not by buying Christmas presents. See how they tricked you? Got you buying Christmas presents saying you love somebody because this is how Jesus loved you. No, my friend. This is how God loved you, by giving Jesus to you. No, my friend. Jesus is to be an example. I know. See, Jesus came and showed us the way. He says, hey, if I can't have it God's way, I'll have it no way. And they say, well, we'll hang you to the cross. And he says, that's your next move. And everybody saw that and said, whoa, somebody show us a way out of this. And somebody did. Somebody showed you a way that you can be complacent about everything that goes on in the world. And when somebody comes up and tap into a spirit that is running through your veins, and you rise up with them, give them all the support, they know all they got to do is snap their head off that, and all of us will fall back to the wayside. Now what I'm saying to you, I am saying to myself. I'm not saying I'm any better than any of you. I'm saying that we are all in a position to step up and become doers of the word. We are all in a position to become monumental in our own lives. Let us not settle for just going to a job working for somebody else's benefit. Let us not just settle for having breakfast with the television on. Let us not settle for having somebody to make love to or have sex with every now and then. Let us not settle for just that alone. Let us settle for the whole world is in our hands. We are the hands of the Spirit of the Almighty God. Let us hold the world in our hands. And let us make the world look just like God, smiling down on it and saying, my good and faithful children, well done. And Dr. King will smile. Gandhi will smile. Jesus Christ will smile. God will smile. And the whole world will smile. That's how you honor Dr. King. Bye-bye.